Listen close. Please don't just scroll past. I need you to stop for a minute. I'm 87 years old, and it is only 3 years ago. Hanging up my keys for the last time that I finally understood something. I misunderstood a man's silence for 30 years. I mistook his presence for scenery. And the cost of that, well, from 1975 until 2017, I was the head groundskeeper for the Willow Creek Municipal Park. My world was 62 acres of grass, flower beds, walking paths, and 3 baseball diamonds. My duty was simple: keep it tidy, keep it green, keep it presentable for the town. My day never changed. I'd arrive at 6:30 a.m., check the shed, fire up the mower. From 1975 until 2017, I was the head groundskeeper for the Willow Creek Municipal Park. My world was 62 acres of grass, flower beds, walking paths, and 3 baseball diamonds. My duty was simple: keep it tidy, keep it green, keep it presentable for the town. My day never changed. I'd arrive at 6:30 a.m., check the shed, fire up the mower. One of those background figures was Martin. Martin was the park's unofficial bench sitter. He was there, rain or shine, on the same green-painted bench overlooking the duck pond from about 8 a.m. to noon every single day. For decades, he'd just sit. Sometimes he'd have a brown paper bag, sometimes a book he never seemed to read. I'd wave as I mowed past. He'd raise a hand in return. That was our total exchange for years. Morning, Martin. A nod back. I thought I knew everything about him I needed to know. He was a retired man enjoying his retirement, a quiet fixture, a part of my routine scenery, as constant as the old oak tree by the bandstand. The conflict, if you could even call it that, was so quiet it barely registered. It was the spring of '89. The town council sent down a new directive: optimize public space usage. A fancy term. They wanted a report on low traffic areas, with an eye to maybe moving or removing benches to improve flow. My boss handed me the clipboard. Just give it a look. See which benches barely get used, he said. So I did for a week. I did my rounds with a different eye. I was looking at furniture, not people. And from that perspective, Martin's bench was a prime candidate. He was the only one who ever used it. For 4 hours a day. Yes, but he was just one person. In my report, I noted bench number 14, Pond East, single consistent user, often stationary for prolonged periods. Low rotation potential candidate for relocation to higher traffic area, near playground. I thought it was perfectly reasonable, prudent even. I was being efficient, justifying my department's budget. If a park bench only serves one man, is it serving the public? Any reasonable person would have asked the same question. I never talked to Martin about it. Why would I? It was an administrative matter. It wasn't my department to manage the people. My department was the grass and the trees. The council, fortunately, or unfortunately, got distracted by a budget fight that summer. The report gathered dust on a shelf. The bench stayed, and I forgot I ever wrote those words. The immediate aftermath was nothing. Nothing at all. Life flowed on like the creek. I mowed. Martin sat. Years passed in the blink of an eye. The 90s, the 2000s. My children grew up and moved away. My wife passed in 2010. Through it all, the park was my constant, and Martin was part of that constant. He faded quietly as these things happen. One week in 2015, he wasn't on his bench. A cold, maybe, I thought. The week turned into a month. The bench sat empty. I asked a regular walker, an older woman. She said softly, "Oh, Martin, he had a stroke. He's in Cedar Ridge, the nursing home. I remember feeling a pang, a sort of distant sympathy. I meant to visit. I truly did. But there was always work. The spring planting, the fall leaf clearance. My attention was on my duties. He passed away 6 months later. A small notice in the paper, no family listed. It was while cleaning out his bench area, season later. Weed in the bed behind it. That my trowel hit something metallic. I dug it out. It was this. Holds up the whistle, a simple brass whistle, on a frayed lanyard covered in dirt. Probably some kid's lost toy. Without thinking, I wiped it off and dropped it in my toolbox, an unintentional keepsake. It lived in that toolbox for years. The realization came 3 years ago, my last week on the job. I was treating my replacement, a young man named Kyle. We were walking the park, and I was pointing out all the little things you only learn from decades of work. The patch where the grass grows thin, the drippy faucet on the north shed. We passed Martin's bench. It was occupied by a young mother and a stroller. Kyle nodded at it and asked, "So, any regulars we should know about? Anyone who needs a little extra looking after?" And just like that, it was as if the world tilted. That simple, kind question, Inyon, who needs a little extra looking after, sliced through 42 years of blindness. My mind raced. The solitary man, the unwavering routine, the brown paper bag. Had it ever held lunch? Or was it a flask? The book he never opened. The total, profound silence. I had cataloged him as low traffic. A statistical blip on my efficiency report. I stood there staring at that green bench, and I couldn't breathe. Voice cracks. Pause, the weight of it all crashed down. For 30 years, I was right there every single day. I mowed around his bench, trimmed the hedges behind him, emptied the bin beside him, but my attention was pointed in the wrong direction. I was looking at the health of the lawn under his feet, and I never once saw the man sitting above it. I was a groundskeeper who cared for the ground, but not for the keeping part, not the human part. That brass whistle in my toolbox wasn't a kid's toy. It was a lifeline he might have needed, and I never knew. And so I think of you now, in your world. It's not about park benches, not really. It's about where your attention is pointed. You're efficient, you have metrics, deadlines, a lane to stay in. You optimize, you're focused on your screen, your inbox, your to-do list, your own little plot of professional grass. The people who are part of your daily scenery, who are they? The quiet colleague who always eats lunch alone at the same desk. The same cashier you see every morning where the transaction is just a scan and a tap. The neighbor you only ever nod to in the hallway. Are they just low traffic areas in your day? Background fixtures. Is your attention, like mine was, consumed by the tasks, the routine, the interface, and never the human being on the other side of it? When you're on your phone, scrolling past a face to get to the next piece of content, what are you missing? When you think, not my department, what quiet cry for company are you filing away? I thought my responsibility was to the park. I was wrong. My responsibility was to the people in the park. And I failed Martin completely, not through malice, but through a simple, tragic misdirection of my gaze.